He laughed when he shoved her, not because it was funny, not because she'd done anything wrong, but because he recognized her. Emily Carter, the girl who used to flinch when doors slammed, the woman half the town whispered about like she was a cautionary tale, the one who disappeared years ago, broke, humiliated, and utterly defeated. Or so Jason thought. It was a Saturday afternoon at Eastern Town Center in Columbus, Ohio. The mall was packed with families, teenagers clutching shopping bags, and couples browsing storefronts under Edison bulbs and exposed brick. The air smelled like cinnamon pretzels and overpriced coffee. Emily stood in line at a cosmetics store, patient and unhurried, her long dark hair pulled into a neat ponytail. She wore a simple grey blazer over a white blouse, understated but elegant. Nothing flashy, nothing loud. That was her now. Calm, controlled, present without demanding attention. Jason didn't care about any of that. He saw prey. "Move," he barked, shoving past her with his shoulder. Her bag slipped from her hand, spilling lip gloss and receipts across the polished tile floor. People turned. A few gasped. Most just stared. Jason grinned wider. "Come on, Emily. Some of us actually have places to be." She didn't respond. She crouched slowly, collecting her things without a word, her expression smooth as glass. That irritated him. He wanted tears. He wanted the stammering apologies he remembered from years ago. He wanted her to shrink. Instead, she stood up, adjusted her blazer, and met his eyes with something that looked disturbingly close to pity. "Excuse me," she said quietly, stepping around him. Jason's jaw tightened. He followed her toward the exit, his voice rising. "Still pretending you matter? Still acting like people forgot what you really are?" Strangers slowed their steps. A mother pulled her child closer. Security glanced over but didn't intervene. Emily kept walking. Jason grabbed her wrist. "I'm talking to you." She stopped, looked down at his hand, then back up at his face. "Let go," she said. Not a plea, a statement. He squeezed harder. Or what? That's when the air changed. A black Mercedes S-Class rolled to a stop outside the glass doors. Then another. Then a third. Men in tailored suits stepped out silent, disciplined, and unnervingly calm. They moved like soldiers, but dressed like executives. No sunglasses, no theatrics, just presence. One of them opened the door. Another walked directly toward Emily. "Mrs. Hale," he said, his tone respectful but firm. "Are you all right?" Jason's grip loosened. Emily pulled her wrist free gently, brushing off her sleeve as if removing dust. She didn't look at Jason. Didn't need to. "I'm fine, Marcus. Thank you." The man nodded once, then turned his gaze toward Jason. He didn't speak, didn't threaten. He simply looked, and Jason felt his stomach drop. Behind Emily, the glass doors opened again, and a man stepped through, tall, Korean, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Jason's car. His expression was unreadable, his movements deliberate and unhurried. He walked straight to Emily and placed a hand gently on the small of her back. "Ready to go?" he asked softly. She nodded. Jason's smirk died on his face. Because Emily wasn't poor, she wasn't abandoned, and she definitely wasn't powerless anymore. The mall security footage would later show exactly 47 seconds between the shove and the arrival of the black cars. 47 seconds in which Jason Kellerman thought he was winning. It had started simply enough. Emily was browsing near the fountain on the second floor of Eastern Town Center, holding a small shopping bag from a bookstore. She wasn't looking for trouble, wasn't even looking for attention. But Jason had been waiting for this moment for years. He'd spotted her from across the corridor, standing near a display of handmade candles. Her posture relaxed, her face peaceful in a way that made his blood boil. She looked fine. Better than fine. She looked like someone who'd moved on. That was unacceptable. Jason had spent the better part of a decade telling anyone who'd listen that Emily Carter was unstable, a liar, a manipulator who couldn't handle reality. When she'd left town 5 years ago, he'd celebrated, called it proof that weak people eventually collapse under their own delusions. Seeing her here calm, composed, unbothered felt like a personal insult, so he decided to remind her where she belonged. He approached from behind, walking fast enough that when he accidentally bumped her, she stumbled forward into a kiosk selling phone cases. The contents of her bag scattered across the floor. "Oh, sorry," he said loudly, his tone dripping with false concern. "Didn't see you there." Emily bent down to gather her things. A paperback novel, a receipt, a small velvet pouch. Jason crouched beside her, his voice dropping to a whisper meant only for her ears. "Thought you learned your lesson," he hissed. "Thought you'd stay gone." She didn't respond, didn't even look at him, just kept collecting her belongings with the same maddening calm. That's when he grabbed her wrist. "I said, I'm talking to you." Her hand stilled in his grip. She turned her head slowly, meeting his eyes for the first time. There was no fear there, no anger, just a quiet, distant assessment, like she was studying an insect under glass. "Let go," she said. Jason laughed. "Or what? You gonna call someone? Your mom? Oh wait, she doesn't even answer your calls anymore. Does she?" Something flickered across Emily's face. Not pain, not shame. Something older, colder. She stood up, forcing Jason to release her wrist or stand with her. He let go, but followed her as she walked toward the exit. "That's right. Run," he called after her. "Just like you always do." People were watching now. A few filmed on their phones. Most just whispered. Jason loved an audience. Emily pushed through the glass doors into the parking garage. Jason followed, adrenaline buzzing in his veins. This was better than he'd hoped. Public. Humiliating. Perfect. "You think anyone cares about you?" he shouted. "You think anyone even remembers your name except as a punchline?" Emily stopped walking. For the first time, she turned to face him fully. "Jason," she said quietly, "you need to leave me alone." He stepped closer. "Why? You gonna make me?" That's when the first car arrived. A black Mercedes S-Class. Windows tinted. License plate obscured. It rolled to a stop 10 feet from where Emily stood. Jason frowned. Then the second car arrived. Same make. Same model. Then the third. The doors opened simultaneously. 6 men stepped out. All Asian. All dressed in suits that looked custom-made. They moved with military precision, forming a loose perimeter around Emily, without a word. Jason's laughter died in his throat. One of the men, older, graying at the temples, with the bearing of someone who'd spent decades giving orders, approached Emily directly. "Mrs. Hale," he said, bowing his head slightly. "Are you all right, Mrs. Hale?" Jason's brain stuttered. Emily Carter got married? To who? Some? Nobody? Some? The fourth car arrived. This one was different. A Maybach. Sleek, black, and worth more than Jason's house. The driver stepped out first, opening the rear door with practiced efficiency, and Daniel Hale emerged. He was tall, 6'2", maybe 6'3", with sharp features and dark eyes that swept the scene with immediate, comprehensive understanding. His suit was midnight blue, perfectly tailored, and his movements had the kind of economy that came from absolute confidence. He didn't look at Jason. He walked directly to Emily, his expression softening in a way that was almost imperceptible, and placed a hand on her back. "Ready to go?" he asked, his voice low and warm. Emily nodded. Jason found his voice. "Wait, who the hell are you?" Daniel turned then, slowly. His gaze landed on Jason with the kind of detached curiosity one might give to roadkill. "Her husband," Daniel said simply. Jason's mouth opened, closed, opened again. She's," he pointed at Emily. "She's nobody. She's nothing." Daniel didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. "No," he said quietly. "She's mine." And with that, he guided Emily toward the Maybach, one hand still resting protectively on her back. Jason stood frozen as the car doors closed, as the engines purred to life, as the convoy rolled away in perfect formation, leaving him alone in the parking garage with his fists clenched and his pride shattered. He didn't know it yet, but that was the last moment he'd ever feel powerful. 5 years earlier, Emily Carter had been a ghost long before she left town. It started with whispers, then jokes, then outright cruelty disguised as concern. Jason had been the architect of it all. They dated briefly in college 6 months that Emily remembered as exciting and Jason remembered as ownership. When she ended things, citing his temper and his need to control every conversation, every decision, every thought she expressed, Jason didn't accept it. He waged war instead. It was subtle at first. A comment here, a rumor there. He told mutual friends she'd cheated, told her co-workers she was unreliable, told her family she was mentally unstable and refused to get help. Emily tried to defend herself, tried to explain, tried to present evidence texts, emails, recordings of Jason's threats. No one believed her. Because Jason was charming. He knew how to perform concern, how to look wounded, how to frame every accusation as proof of Emily's instability. "She's obsessed with me," he'd say sadly. "I wish she'd move on." The more Emily fought, the crazier she looked. So she stopped fighting. She stopped attending parties where Jason would be, stopped answering calls from friends who only reached out to gossip, stopped trying to convince her family that she wasn't the problem. Her mother believed Jason. So did her younger sister, Paige. "You always make everything about you," her mother had said during their last conversation. "Maybe if you took responsibility for once, people wouldn't turn on you." Emily had left that night. No dramatic exit, no tearful goodbye. She just packed a bag, drove to the Columbus airport, and bought a one-way ticket to Los Angeles. She left behind her apartment lease, her job at a local nonprofit, her friends, her family, and every piece of herself that Jason had poisoned. The first year in California was brutal. She worked 3 jobs, waitressing, data entry, and weekend shifts at a bookstore in Silver Lake. She lived in a studio apartment with a broken heater and bars on the windows. She didn't call anyone back home, didn't post on social media, didn't exist anywhere Jason could find her. She rebuilt herself in silence. Therapy helped. So did distance. So did the slow, painful work of realizing that she'd never been the problem. She'd just been the target. By year 2, she'd enrolled in night classes, marketing, business communications. She had a knack for it, understanding how people thought, what they responded to, how to tell a story that stuck. By year 3, she was working at a mid-sized digital agency in Century City, managing campaigns for clients she'd once only read about in magazines. She was good at it, better than good. She was exceptional. That's where she met Daniel. It was a company mixer at a rooftop bar in downtown LA. Emily had been standing near the edge, looking out over the glittering sprawl of the city, when a quiet voice beside her said, "It's overwhelming, isn't it?" She turned. He was Korean, sharply dressed, with kind eyes and the kind of stillness that made you want to listen. "The city?" she asked. "The noise," he clarified. "Everyone performing, competing, trying to prove they belong." Emily smiled faintly. "You sound like someone who doesn't have to prove anything." "Maybe," he said. "Or maybe I'm just tired of pretending it matters." They talked for 2 hours. He didn't ask about her past, didn't pry, didn't demand explanations for the careful way she spoke or the way she hesitated before answering personal questions. He just listened. His name was Daniel Hale. He worked in investments, which Emily later learned was a polite way of saying he owned half the commercial real estate in 3 states and had a venture capital portfolio worth more than some countries' GDPs. She didn't know that at first. She just knew he made her feel safe. They dated for 8 months before he proposed. Not with fanfare or a public spectacle, just a quiet evening in his Malibu home, the ocean crashing below, and a simple question. "Will you let me take care of you?" Emily had cried. Not because she needed taking care of, but because he'd asked, because he'd seen her strength and still wanted to be beside her. They married 3 weeks later in a private ceremony. No guests, no press, just vows, rings, and a promise that she'd never have to fight alone again. Daniel never asked her to explain Ohio. He just believed her when she said she'd been hurt. And when she finally told him months into their marriage, one night when the weight of silence became too much, he didn't doubt her, didn't question, didn't demand proof. He simply said, "That won't happen again." Emily had returned to Ohio only twice since marrying Daniel. Once for a work conference, once to finalize the sale of her childhood home after her grandmother passed. Both times, she'd kept a low profile, Both times, she'd avoided anyone from her past. But this trip was different. This time, Daniel had business in Columbus, a potential acquisition of a logistics company headquartered just outside the city. He'd invited Emily along, and she'd agreed, thinking enough time had passed that she could walk through Eastern Town Center without ghosts following her. She'd been wrong. Jason had found her. And worse, he'd thought she was still broken. That was the mistake that would cost him everything. Emily learned what power looked like the first time Daniel took her to Seoul. It was 6 months into their marriage. He'd mentioned a business trip, something about meeting with board members and reviewing quarterly projections. Emily had assumed she'd stay behind. But Daniel insisted. "I want you there," he'd said simply. They flew private, not because Daniel was ostentatious, but because he valued privacy. The plane was understated, leather seats, soft lighting, a flight attendant who spoke 3 languages and never intruded. Emily spent most of the flight reading, occasionally glancing over at Daniel, who worked quietly on his laptop, his expression focused but calm. When they landed at Incheon International Airport, 3 cars were waiting. Not taxis, not ride-shares, a convoy. Emily had blinked at the sight. "Daniel, what exactly do you do?" He'd smiled rare, soft, meant only for her. "I'll show you." What followed was a week that redefined Emily's understanding of wealth, influence, and quiet authority. Daniel's company, Hale Industries, wasn't just successful. It was essential. They owned shipping routes, warehouses, distribution networks, and tech infrastructure that powered half the e-commerce in Asia and increasingly North America. But Daniel never flaunted it. He attended meetings in unremarkable conference rooms. He spoke softly, listened more than he talked, and made decisions with the kind of precision that left no room for doubt. People respected him, not out of fear, but out of recognition that he'd earned his position through competence, not charisma. Emily watched him navigate boardrooms filled with men twice his age, all of whom deferred to him without question. She watched him shut down a hostile investor with 3 sentences. She watched him approve a $100 million acquisition with the same calm he used to order coffee. And through it all, he never once made her feel small. At dinners with executives, he introduced her as his wife, not his beautiful wife, or his better half, just his wife, with a quiet pride that made her throat tighten. When a colleague made a dismissive comment about trophy wives, Daniel had simply said, "Emily built a career from nothing. What have you built without your father's money?" The man never spoke to them again. Back in Los Angeles, their life was quieter but no less intentional. Daniel didn't live in a McMansion in Beverly Hills. He owned a sleek, modern home in the Palisades floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, clean lines, and a simplicity that felt more like peace than minimalism. Emily had her own office, her own projects. Daniel never asked her to quit her job or play hostess at events she didn't care about. "You're not an accessory," he'd told her once. "You're my partner." He meant it. When Emily struggled with nightmares about Ohio, about Jason's voice, her mother's coldness, the way people had looked at her like she was broken, Daniel didn't try to fix her. He just held her, listened, reminded her that survival wasn't weakness. "You're stronger than anyone I've ever met," he'd said one night, his hand tracing slow circles on her back. "You rebuilt yourself when the world told you to disappear. That's not fragility. That's power." Emily had cried into his shoulder, and for the first time in years, she believed him. Their marriage wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. It was safe. And that safety gave Emily something she'd thought she'd lost forever: agency. She started speaking up in meetings, pushing back when clients tried to undervalue her work, setting boundaries with people who mistook kindness for weakness. Daniel noticed. "You're different," he said one evening, watching her sketch out a campaign strategy at their kitchen table. "Different how?" "Unafraid." Emily smiled. "I'm still afraid. I'm just tired of letting fear make decisions for me." Daniel leaned down, kissing the top of her head. Good. But despite the life she'd built, despite the safety and love and success, Ohio still haunted her. Not because she missed it, but because unfinished business has a way of following you. Jason's face in that mall, the smug certainty, The entitlement, the assumption that she was still the girl he'd destroyed, had ripped open something Emily thought she'd healed. That night, back in their hotel suite in Columbus, Emily sat on the edge of the bed, staring at her hands. Daniel sat beside her, silent but present. "I thought I was over it," she said quietly. "I thought I'd moved on." "You have," Daniel said. "But moving on doesn't mean forgetting, and it doesn't mean letting cruelty go unanswered." Emily looked at him. "What are you saying?" Daniel's expression didn't change, but his eyes, calm, dark, unwavering, held something Emily had seen before in boardrooms. Something resolute. "I'm saying you don't have to fight alone anymore." Emily shook her head. "I don't want revenge, Daniel. I just want to be free of him. Then we'll make sure he can't touch you again." "How?" Daniel took her hand. "Trust me." And because she did, because Daniel had never once given her reason not to, Emily nodded. What she didn't know was that Daniel had already made a call, already set things in motion, already decided that anyone who hurt his wife would learn exactly how expensive that mistake could be. Emily's mother lived in a modest, split-level house in Westerville, 20 minutes north of Columbus. The neighborhood was quiet, tree-lined streets, basketball hoops in driveways, the kind of place where people waved at their neighbors and pretended everything was fine. Emily hadn't been inside that house in 5 years. She didn't plan to go back. But 2 days after the mall incident, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Unknown. We need to talk. It's about Mom." Emily stared at the screen. The number wasn't saved, but she recognized the area code and the tone. Paige, her younger sister, the one who'd believed Jason, the one who'd called Emily dramatic and selfish and a liar when she tried to explain what was really happening, the one who'd chosen Jason's version of events over her own blood. Emily typed out a response, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. Finally, she just wrote, "What about her?" The reply came instantly. "Paige, she's sick. Cancer. Stage 3. She wants to see you." Emily's stomach twisted. She didn't respond. 10 minutes later, her phone rang. Paige's name flashed across the screen. Emily answered, but didn't speak. Paige's voice was tight. "Did you get my message?" "Yes." And what? "Are you coming?" Emily closed her eyes. "Why would I?" Silence. Then, quietly, "Because she's our mom. She stopped being my mom when she chose a stranger's lies over her own daughter." Paige's breath hitched. "That's not fair, isn't it?" She was confused, Em. Jason was convincing. "You have to understand." "I don't have to understand anything," Emily said coldly. "I tried to explain. I showed her messages. I begged her to believe me. She told me I was making it up for attention. She made a mistake. She made a choice." Paige was crying now. "Please. She doesn't have long. The doctors said maybe 6 months. She wants to apologize." Emily's throat tightened. She hated how much that hurt. Hated that part of her still wanted her mother's love, even after everything. "Where are you now?" Emily asked. "At her house. With her. Put her on the phone." Rustling. Muffled voices. Then her mother's voice, raspy, weak, but still unmistakably hers. "Emily?" Emily swallowed hard. "What do you want?" "I want," her mother coughed. "I want to explain." "There's nothing to explain. You chose Jason. You made it clear where I stood. I was wrong." "Yes, you were. Please, honey. I don't have much time. I need you to understand. I thought I was protecting you. I thought tough love would help you see. You thought shaming me would fix me," Emily interrupted, her voice shaking. "You thought humiliating me in front of the family would make me admit to something I didn't do. You thought." She stopped, steadying herself. "You thought I was the problem." Her mother was crying now. "I'm sorry. You're sorry because you're dying, not because you were wrong. That's not true, isn't it?" Silence. Then her mother's voice, small and broken. "Can I see you? Before I go?" Emily wanted to say no, wanted to hang up, wanted to let the anger protect her the way it had for years. But Daniel's words echoed in her mind. "You don't have to fight alone anymore." "I'll think about it," Emily said, and hung up. That evening, Emily told Daniel about the call. They were sitting on the balcony of their hotel suite, the Columbus skyline glowing in the distance. Daniel listened without interrupting. When she finished, he simply asked, "What do you want to do?" "I don't know," Emily admitted. "Part of me wants to see her. Part of me wants to let her die, wondering if I ever forgave her. Both are fair." Emily looked at him. "What would you do?" Daniel considered. "I'd ask myself whether seeing her would give me peace, or just reopen the wound. And only you can answer that." Emily leaned back in her chair. "I keep thinking about Paige." She sounded desperate. "Paige chose Jason too," Daniel reminded her gently. "She made the same choice your mother did." "I know. And now they want forgiveness because it's convenient." Emily nodded. "But what if they really are sorry?" Daniel reached over, taking her hand. "Then they can live with the consequences of their actions, just like you had to." Emily squeezed his hand. "You're right." But 2 days later, curiosity or maybe something deeper got the better of her. She drove to Westerville alone. The house looked smaller than she remembered. The paint was peeling, the lawn overgrown. A for sale sign leaned crookedly near the mailbox. Emily sat in the car for 10 minutes, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. Finally, she got out. Paige answered the door. She looked older, tired. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair pulled back in a messy bun. "Em," she breathed. "You came." "Don't," Emily said flatly. "I'm here for Mum, not for you." Paige's face crumpled, but she nodded and stepped aside. The house smelled like old soup and medicine. The living room was cluttered with pill bottles, medical equipment, and half-read magazines. Her mother sat in a recliner near the window, a blanket draped over her lap. She looked frail, thin, nothing like the woman who used to command a room. "Emily," she whispered. Emily stayed near the door. "I'm here. Say what you need to say." Her mother's eyes filled with tears. "I was wrong. About Jason. About everything." "Why now?" Emily asked. "Why after 5 years?" Her mother looked down. "Because he came back." Emily froze. "What?" "Jason," her mother said. "He came here 3 months ago. Asked for money. Said you owed him. Said you'd ruined his reputation. And he deserved compensation." Emily's blood ran cold. "And you gave it to him?" Her mother nodded, ashamed. "How much?" $15,000. Emily's laugh was bitter. "You gave him $15,000 based on his word." He said, "He lied, Mom. Just like he lied 5 years ago. And you believed him." Again. Her mother sobbed. "I didn't know. I thought." "You didn't think," Emily snapped. "You never do." Paige stepped forward. "Em, please, did you give him money too?" Paige hesitated. 5,000. Emily stared at them both. "Unbelievable. We didn't know," her mother pleaded. "He said he had proof. He said." "He's a con artist," Emily said coldly. "And you fell for it, just like you fell for every lie he told about me." She turned to leave. "Emily, wait." Emily stopped at the door but didn't turn around. "You want forgiveness? Earn it. Stop giving Jason power. Stop believing his lies. And maybe, I'll consider letting you back into my life." She walked out. Behind her, her mother wept. But Emily didn't look back, because some people didn't deserve second chances. They deserved consequences. The video went viral in less than 6 hours. It was posted to Twitter first, then TikTok, then Instagram. Within a day, it had 8 million views. The footage was grainy, shot on someone's phone from across the mall, but clear enough. It showed Jason shoving Emily, showed her stumbling, showed him laughing, and then it showed the cars, the men in suits, the quiet authority. The moment Daniel appeared, and Jason's face went white. The caption read, "Bully picks on poor woman, turns out she's married to a billionaire." Instant karma. The comments were brutal. At Real Talk Rachel, that man really thought he could embarrass her in public. The audacity. At Justice for Emily 88. This is what happens when you assume someone's powerless. She didn't even have to say a word. At Karma is Real. The way those men surrounded her like the Secret Service. Who is she? But not everyone was on Emily's side. Jason's friends, and there were more than Emily expected, flooded the comment sections with their own version of events. At Jason KF, y'all don't know the whole story. She's manipulative. She lied about him years ago and ruined his reputation. He was just defending himself. At Truth Matters 01, classic gold digger move. She married rich, and now she's pretending to be a victim. Pathetic. At Team Jason, everyone in Ohio knows what she did. She's crazy. Always has been. The narrative split. Half the internet saw a bully getting what he deserved. The other half saw a liar getting caught. Jason leaned into the second narrative. Within 48 hours, he'd posted a 15-minute video to YouTube titled, "The Truth About Emily Carter." He sat in his poorly lit apartment, looking directly into the camera, his expression wounded and sincere. "I never wanted it to come to this," he began. "But after that video went viral, I've been getting death threats, people calling me a monster, and I need you to know the truth." He sighed, rubbing his face like a man burdened by terrible knowledge. "Emily and I dated years ago. It ended badly. Not because I was abusive, she was. She manipulated me, isolated me from my friends. When I finally ended things, she spiraled, started spreading lies, telling people I hurt her, when she was the one who hurt me." He held up his phone, scrolling through what he claimed were old text messages. "Look at this. I'll ruin you. No one will believe you." These are her words, not mine. The messages looked real. The timestamps seemed legitimate, but Emily knew better. Those texts had been doctored, taken out of context, Frankenstein together from years of conversations to paint a story that never happened. Jason continued. "She left town because people saw through her lies, and now she's back, married to some rich guy, and everyone's acting like she's the victim. But I know the truth. She's the abuser, and I won't be silenced." The video got 200,000 views in the first day, and the comments shifted. At Believe Him too. "Thank you for speaking up. Men get abused too, and no one talks about it." At Skeptical Sue, "I knew something was off. She has manipulator written all over her." At Question Everything, "Why would a billionaire marry someone like her unless she trapped him?" Emily watched the video alone in the hotel suite, her hands shaking. Daniel was in a meeting downstairs. She hadn't told him about the video yet, hadn't told him that the past she'd tried to bury was being excavated and weaponized in real time. Her phone buzzed. A text from Paige. "Paige, I saw the video. I'm sorry, Em. I didn't know he'd do this." Emily didn't respond. Another text, this time from an old co-worker. "Amanda, hey, is that video true? The one Jason posted? Because if it is, I owe him an apology." Emily's chest tightened. It was happening again. Jason was rewriting history, and people were believing him. She thought about responding, thought about posting her own video, thought about defending herself. But she'd learned the hard way that fighting in public only made things worse. So instead, she called the one person who would understand. "Daniel," she said when he answered. "We have a problem." By the time Daniel returned to the suite, Emily had sent him every link, every post, every comment thread. He read through them in silence, his expression unreadable. Finally, he set down his phone and looked at her. "Do you want me to make this go away?" he asked. Emily blinked. "Can you?" "Yes." "How?" Daniel's smile was faint, cold. "By showing people what happens when you lie about someone I love." Emily swallowed. "Daniel, I'm not going to hurt him," Daniel interrupted gently. "I'm just going to make sure the truth comes out." "What truth?" Daniel pulled out his laptop, typing rapidly. After a moment, he turned the screen toward her. It was a forensic analysis report professionally formatted, complete with timestamps, metadata, and IP tracking. "Jason's texts," Emily whispered. "Edited," Daniel confirmed. "Badly. Whoever he hired to fake them didn't scrub the metadata. Every message he claims you sent was actually stitched together from different conversations over a 3-year period. None of them say what he's claiming." Emily stared at the screen. "How did you get this?" "I made a call." "To who?" Daniel closed the laptop. "People I trust." Emily's throat tightened. "You're going to release this?" Not me, Daniel said. My legal team will send it to the platforms. The video will be taken down for misinformation, and if Jason tries to repost, we'll pursue legal action for defamation and fraud. Emily shook her head. He'll just find another way to attack me. No, Daniel said quietly. He won't. How can you be sure? Daniel's eyes were steady. Because I'm going to make sure he has bigger problems to worry about. Daniel Hale didn't make threats. He made arrangements. Within 72 hours of Jason's video going viral, 3 things happened. First, the video was removed from YouTube for violating community guidelines, specifically manipulated media and targeted harassment. Jason tried to repost it. It was taken down again within minutes. He tried Vimeo. Removed. Rumble. Removed. Every platform he touched. The video disappeared like smoke. Second, Jason received a letter. It arrived via certified mail at his apartment, a single envelope, heavy stock paper, embossed with the logo of a law firm Jason had never heard of. Kwan and Associates. International litigation. Inside was a cease and desist notice. Jason read it 3 times, his hands shaking. On behalf of our client, Emily Hale, née Carter, we demand you immediately cease all defamatory statements, fabricated evidence, and harassment. Failure to comply will result in legal action, including, but not limited to, civil suits for defamation, fraud, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Damages sought. $5 million. $5 million. Jason laughed when he read it, then stopped laughing when he saw the attached evidence. Page after page of forensic analysis showing how he'd edited text messages, timestamps proving the manipulation, screenshots of him bragging in private Discord servers about taking Emily down. His stomach dropped. Third, the audits began. Jason had been running a small consulting business for the past 2 years, helping local businesses with marketing, though mostly he just charged them for work he never did. He'd been sloppy, cutting corners, filing taxes late, claiming deductions he wasn't entitled to. No one had ever cared enough to look closely. Until now. The IRS audit notice arrived the same week as the cease and desist. So did a letter from the Ohio Attorney General's office, informing him that multiple clients had filed complaints alleging fraud. Jason stared at the stack of legal documents on his kitchen table, his mind racing. This wasn't coincidence. This was coordinated. He grabbed his phone, scrolling furiously through contacts until he found the one person he thought might help. His old college buddy, Marcus, who worked in finance. Mark, Jason said when he answered, I need a favor. What kind of favor? I need you to look someone up for me. Daniel Hale. H-A-I-L. There was a pause. The Daniel Hale? Jason frowned. You know him? Marcus laughed, not kindly. Dude, everyone knows him. Who is he? CEO of Hale Industries. One of the richest men in North America. Maybe top 50 globally. He owns half the logistics infrastructure between here and Shanghai. Jason's mouth went dry. How rich? Billionaire. With a B. Multiple times over. Jason sank into his chair. Shit. Why are you asking? Because I think I just pissed him off. Marcus's laugh died. What did you do? I might have harassed his wife. The line went silent. Mark. Jason, Marcus said slowly. Please tell me you're joking. I didn't know she was married to him. I thought she was nobody. You harassed Daniel Hale's wife. I didn't harass her, Do you have any idea what kind of lawyers that guy can afford? What kind of resources he has access to? Jason's chest tightened. It's not that serious. It was just, listen to me very carefully. Marcus interrupted. If Daniel Hale wants you gone, you're gone. He doesn't need to touch you. He just needs to make a phone call. And from the sound of it, he already has. Jason hung up. His hands were shaking. He pulled up his laptop, Googling Daniel Hale for the first time. The results were overwhelming. Forbes profile. Daniel Hale, 38, CEO of Hale Industries. Net worth estimated at $4.7 billion. Bloomberg article. Hale Industries acquires major shipping contracts across Pacific Rim. Business Insider. The quiet billionaire. How Daniel Hale built an empire without fanfare. Photo after photo showed the same man. Calm. Controlled. Standing beside world leaders, CEOs, and diplomats. And in one photo recent, taken at some charity gala, Daniel stood beside a woman in a navy gown. Emily. She looked radiant, confident, untouchable. Jason slammed the laptop shut. This wasn't supposed to happen. Emily was supposed to be broken. She was supposed to still be the scared girl who left town in shame. She wasn't supposed to have power. His phone buzzed. Another unknown number. He answered warily. "Hello, Mr. Kellerman?" A woman's voice. Professional. Cold. "Who is this?" "My name is Sarah Lim. I'm general counsel for Hale Industries." Jason's blood turned to ice. "We haven't filed suit yet," she continued. "But that can change quickly. I'm calling to offer you an opportunity." "What opportunity?" "Apologize. Publicly. Post a video admitting you lied. Retract every statement you made about Mrs. Hale. And if I don't, then we proceed with litigation. We'll file in federal court. We'll subpoena every text, email, and financial record you have. We'll depose every person who's ever known you. And when we're done, you'll owe more than you'll ever be able to pay." Jason's voice cracked. "This is insane. All I did was—" "You slandered a woman who wanted nothing to do with you," Sarah said calmly. "You fabricated evidence. You attempted to destroy her reputation for your own ego. And now you're facing consequences. She's the one who—" "Mr. Kellerman," Sarah interrupted. "I don't care what you think happened. I care about facts. And the facts show you're a liar." Jason opened his mouth, closed it. "You have 48 hours to post an apology," Sarah said. "After that, we file. And trust me, you don't want that." She hung up. Jason sat in silence, staring at the wall. For the first time in his life, he realized he'd picked a fight he couldn't win. Jason's public apology video was pathetic. He posted it at 2 a.m., sitting in the same chair where he'd filmed his attack on Emily. But this time, there was no swagger, no smug confidence, just fear. "I want to apologize," he began, his voice hoarse. "To Emily, to anyone I hurt with my previous video. I lied. The messages I showed were edited, taken out of context. I was angry and I wanted to make her look bad. But she didn't deserve that. None of it was true." He looked directly into the camera, his eyes red-rimmed. "I'm sorry. I was wrong, and I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." The video got 50,000 views in the first hour. The comments were merciless. "At Karma Court. Too late, buddy. You already showed everyone who you really are. At Emily deserves better. This man is only apologizing because he got caught. Disgusting. At reckoning time. Imagine being so pathetic. You have to lie about a woman to feel powerful." But the apology was the least of Jason's problems. The IRS audit revealed $47,000 in unreported income and fraudulent deductions. The Ohio AG's investigation uncovered 6 separate clients who'd paid Jason for services he never delivered, nearly $30,000 in total fraud. And then the civil suit started. 3 former clients filed lawsuits seeking restitution. Jason's landlord filed for unpaid rent. His car was repossessed. Within 2 weeks, Jason's life had imploded. He couldn't get work, couldn't show his face in public without people recognizing him as that guy who harassed the billionaire's wife. His friends stopped answering his calls. His mother, who lived 2 states away, told him he'd brought this on himself. Jason was alone, broke, humiliated. Everything he'd done to Emily, magnified and reflected back at him. Meanwhile, Emily's mother made her own decision. 2 weeks after Emily's visit, she called her daughter. "I need to tell you something," she said. Emily, sitting in Daniel's office in Los Angeles, put the call on speaker so he could hear. "What is it?" "Jason came back," her mother said. "After you left, he wanted more money. I told him no, and he threatened me," her mother said quietly. "Said he'd tell everyone I abused you as a child. Said he'd ruin what was left of my reputation. Emily's hands tightened on the armrest. But I didn't give him anything, her mother continued. I told him to leave. And then I called a lawyer. Emily blinked. You did? I gave him a sworn statement, her mother said. Everything he told me 5 years ago. Every lie, every manipulation. I put it in writing, and I sent it to the Attorney General's office. Emily's throat tightened. Why? Her mother's voice cracked. Because you were right. I chose wrong, and I can't undo that. But maybe I can help make sure he doesn't hurt anyone else. Emily closed her eyes. It wasn't enough. It didn't erase the years of pain, didn't undo the abandonment, but it was something. Thank you, Emily said quietly. I'm sorry, her mother whispered. I know it doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. Emily nodded, even though her mother couldn't see. I know. After they hung up, Daniel reached over and squeezed her hand. You okay? Emily exhaled slowly. I think so. Proud of you. For what? For not letting hatred consume you. Emily smiled faintly. I had help. Daniel kissed her forehead. You did the hard part. 3 weeks after the mall incident, Jason was arrested. The charges: wire fraud, theft by deception, and harassment. The bail was set at $50,000. Jason couldn't pay. He sat in a county jail cell, staring at the concrete walls, and wondered how everything had gone so wrong so fast. He'd thought he was untouchable, thought Emily was weak, thought power meant being loud. He'd been wrong about all of it. Emily didn't attend Jason's arraignment. She didn't need to. But Daniel went. Not to gloat, not to watch Jason suffer, just to make sure the legal proceedings were handled correctly. He sat in the back of the Franklin County Courthouse, his expression neutral, as Jason shuffled into the room in an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs. Jason looked smaller, thinner. The arrogance that had once defined him was gone, replaced by exhaustion and defeat. The judge read the charges. Jason's public defender, a tired-looking woman with a stack of case files, entered a plea of not guilty. Bail was denied due to flight risk. Jason would remain in custody until trial. Daniel watched in silence as Jason was led away. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. Jason's gaze held fear. Daniel's held nothing, because this wasn't personal. This was simply consequence. Back in Los Angeles, Emily tried to move on. She returned to work, resumed her projects, started sleeping through the night again. But Ohio lingered, not as trauma, not as fear, as unfinished business. One evening, as she and Daniel sat on their balcony watching the sunset, Emily said, I want to go back. Daniel looked at her. To Ohio? Yes. Why? Because I need to face it. Not Jason, not my family, just the place, the memories. I need to stand there as the person I am now and prove to myself that I survived. Daniel nodded. Then we'll go. You don't have to. I know, he said. But I want to. 2 weeks later, they flew back to Columbus. This time, there was no secrecy, no low profile. Daniel rented out a private event space at the Joseph Hotel, a sleek, modern venue in downtown Columbus. He invited the local media, business leaders, community figures, and he announced a $10 million donation to fund a new initiative, the Carter Foundation for Survivor Advocacy. The foundation would provide legal aid, therapy, and career support for people escaping abusive relationships and manipulative social dynamics. It would be headquartered in Columbus, and it would bear Emily's name. When Emily took the stage to speak at the launch event, her hands trembled slightly, but her voice was steady. I left this city 5 years ago because I believed the lies people told about me, she began. I believed I was the problem, that I deserved what happened, that I was too broken to matter. She looked out at the crowd. Some faces were familiar, most were strangers. But I wasn't broken. I was targeted. And there's a difference. Applause rippled through the room. This foundation exists for people like me, Emily continued. People who've been told they're crazy, that they're liars, that they don't deserve to be believed. This foundation says, you matter, your truth matters, and you're not alone. The applause grew louder. Daniel watched from the side of the stage, his expression soft with pride. When Emily finished, she stepped down and walked straight to him. "Thank you," she whispered. "You did this?" Daniel said. "I just made the calls." Emily shook her head. "We did this." Later that night, Emily stood outside the mall where it had all started. The parking lot was empty. The stores were closed. She walked to the spot where Jason had shoved her, where she'd fallen, where the world had watched. She stood there for a long time. Then she turned and walked away, not because she forgave, but because she was free. 6 months later, Emily stood in a hospital room in Santa Monica, holding her daughter for the first time. The baby was perfect. Tiny fists, dark hair, eyes that would eventually settle into the same deep brown as Daniel's. They named her Grace, not because of religion, but because Grace was what Emily had learned to give herself and what she hoped her daughter would always carry. Daniel sat beside the hospital bed, his hand resting gently on Emily's shoulder, his gaze fixed on their child with quiet wonder. "She's perfect," he whispered. Emily smiled, exhausted and elated. "She is." For a moment, they just existed in that space, new parents, overwhelmed and grateful. Then Emily's phone buzzed. A news alert. Jason Kellerman sentenced to 18 months in prison for fraud and harassment. Emily read it once, then set the phone down. Daniel glanced at her. "You okay?" "Yeah," Emily said. And she meant it, because Jason's sentencing didn't define her healing. Grace did. The foundation did. The life she'd built did. Jason was a footnote now, a cautionary tale. Emily was the story. The Carter Foundation grew rapidly. Within the first year, it helped 347 people escape abusive situations, provided legal representation for 89 court cases, funded therapy for hundreds more. Emily became the face of the foundation not because she sought the spotlight, but because her story resonated. She gave interviews, spoke at conferences, wrote an op-ed for the New York Times titled, "When Your Truth Becomes a Weapon Against You." The piece went viral. People reached out from across the country sharing their own stories, thanking her for speaking up, asking for help. Emily read every message and responded to as many as she could. 2 years after the mall incident, Emily received an unexpected letter. It was from Paige. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I chose wrong, but I want you to know that I see it now. I see what Jason did, what I enabled, what I failed to stop. Mom died 6 months ago, peacefully. She spent her last days talking about you, about how proud she was, how much she regretted not believing you. I regret it too. I'm in therapy now, trying to understand why I was so quick to believe him, why I couldn't see what was right in front of me. I don't expect you to respond. I just wanted you to know that you were right, about everything, and I'm sorry. Paige." Emily read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and placed it in a drawer. She didn't respond, not because she was cruel, but because some apologies arrived too late to repair the damage. Paige would have to live with that, just like Emily had lived with abandonment. On Grace's 2nd birthday, Emily and Daniel hosted a small party at their Malibu home. Close friends, a few colleagues, Grace's godparents. As the sun set over the Pacific, Emily stood on the deck, watching Grace toddle across the grass, laughing as Daniel chased her with exaggerated slowness. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who believed she was worthless, who thought powerlessness was permanent. That girl was gone, not erased, but transformed. Emily had learned that power wasn't loud. It wasn't cruel. Power was choosing who you became after the world tried to break you. Power was building something beautiful from the wreckage. Power was standing in a room full of people who once doubted you and not needing their validation anymore. Power was knowing your worth, even when no one else did. And power was holding your daughter and promising her a world where truth mattered more than performance, where kindness mattered more than cruelty, where survival wasn't the end of the story, it was the beginning. Grace squealed as Daniel scooped her up, spinning her in a circle. Emily smiled. She'd survived, and now she was thriving, not because a billionaire saved her, but because she'd saved herself first. Daniel had just made sure the world knew it. Epilogue. Years later, a journalist asked Emily what she'd say to people, still trapped in the kind of situation she'd escaped. Emily thought for a moment, then said, "Your truth matters, even when people refuse to hear it, even when they twist it, even when they use it against you. Your truth still matters." She paused. "And one day, the people who doubted you will see it too. Maybe they'll apologize. Maybe they won't. But by then, you'll be so far ahead, their opinion won't matter anymore." The journalist smiled. "That's powerful." Emily shook her head. "No, that's just consequence." And she meant it. Because consequence, Emily had learned, was the most powerful force in the world. Not revenge, not justice, just the simple, inevitable truth that actions have outcomes. And sometimes, those outcomes catch up in ways no one expects. Jason learned that in a jail cell. Emily learned it in freedom. And Grace would learn it in a world her mother helped build, one story, one survivor, one truth at a time.